Canna fam, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're not gathered here under such great pretenses like we usually are when we're in the studio. Today, I've got something to talk about, Canna fam, and you probably have heard about it already. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper. Today, we're going to be talking about the new legislation, which is Senate Bill 215, which has been proposed. This is going to have some big impact on the cannabis space, some big impact on smokers and business owners, and a lot of the culture, man. It's not looking good. Let's dive into it. All right, we're going to do a quick walkthrough of this bill, talk about some key points that really stand out to me, and kind of go over my feeling on these points and how they might impact the culture. Kind of taking a look here. I'll try to throw them up at the bottom of the screen as well. On page 2, I mean, we start off strong. They start defining cannabis beverages as something with 5 milligrams or less as it pertains to these consumption lounges. So that already rules out drinks that are in the market. There's already 10 milligram drinks that are available, but I guess you can't have them if you are going to be a cannabis consumption lounge with bevies as an option. 5 milligrams is your cap. It's so crazy how these folks in this government entity will try to define and dictate how much of THC a person needs or should have or could have or whatever. Like when they have, no true medical understanding of the plant, they have no true scientific understanding of the plant, and they're even conferring with people from brands, people in the business, and it still gets botched along the way. It's like, it gives me little to no hope that the people that are in the power even know what the heck they're talking about when this is what we start with. They're like, all right, you can drink your THC, but it has to be less than 5. What are you talking about, man? Page 3, we go right down to it. You need to obtain a license to be a cannabis lounge. I don't hate that. It makes sense if the rest of the picture made sense. Like just like most businesses need licenses, of course you would have to get a license for it. It is limited to social equity companies. So they are, specifying folks that are in the social equity space would be the ones, I don't know if it's just first in line or only available to get consumption lounge spaces licensed to themselves. So they're, again, kind of putting it in a box. I like the effort of this. It just doesn't seem like, it seems, what's the word I'm looking for? Performative. Like they're just trying to dash up and make it look a little bit better, the fallacies in the rest of the legislation. Moving on, we go right down to page 4, where you have consumption licenses allow you to get cannabis product from licensed brand and repackage cannabis to single serving. So you have to get, once you get this cannabis license, the consumption license, you can start purchasing products from brands. I don't know if that means they have to go directly through the company themselves, like whether it be the grower or the processor, or if they're able to buy from dispensaries. I'm kind of curious about that aspect of it. But then you can also take that, break it down into single serving. So I don't know if that just means breaking down flour. Can you sell single dabs? Can you, what are you going to be able to sell? Obviously gummies, I guess, makes sense. Single gummies. They're being very loose and light with certain verbiage and so strict on some of this other verbiage where it just doesn't quite, I just don't quite understand. Processing is allowed, but also not allowed. Like you'll see 2 blurbs where I read it, and listen, Canna fam, I don't got no letters after my last name. I'm not here as your lawmaker, or barely, I barely know English. This just feels like you're trying to misguide everybody and just make it confusing on purpose. Okay, moving on. You can't add cannabis to prepared food. So that means you're not able to make infused meals. You can't have things like the Nomad Cook. You can't have like different entities come in and create an infused meal. Does that mean you can't sell food and them folks infuse it themselves? Are you able to sell tinctures of oil on the side, infused sauces, infused honey, infused whatevers? I don't know. I would love to know. I would love more information about that, but you can't sell it pre-infused. I'm assuming because you can't control dosage as well. I don't know. Consumption lounges can be food service establishments, which I also find very interesting. So I guess a business can already be a restaurant and then they can purchase the consumption lounge for it. I don't know if that means they're going to have to be kept separate. We're going to talk about, I don't think so, because you shouldn't have to be, but are you going to have to separate these pieces? There's going to have to be a wall in between the two with locked doors. How strict is the sharing of the space if a person that already owns a restaurant can just also open up the lounge too? All right, moving on. Lounges can't distribute samples. I also found that one very funny. The fact that I feel like what is the harm if they can sell it to you? Why can't they just give you something to try? Why can't you have a complimentary J? Why can't it, well, I guess not joint. Why can't it be, I don't know. There just seems like there could be so many options to make it make more sense. So you can't distribute samples, but you can sell it. Why can't samples be available? Lounges can't let employees consume. Okay, I mean, that's the same with dispos, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I like an employee that's working in a consumption lounge that could tell me about it. Now, obviously, if they're like dabbed out of their mind and can't really think, that's one thing. I don't think that's too many people out here, but like, I feel like you're splitting hairs again. No alcohol consumption. Y'all gonna get mad, but I feel like I like that because it keeps consumption lounges peaceful and not drunk, whereas bars get like that. Like, it's just, you're just going to keep those worlds separated. You're not melding the two together, and I think that's fine. And then here's where it gets really funny, in my opinion. No tobacco consumption on premises. So, like, no, does that mean no nicotine vapes as well? Like, if I can hit can I hit a vape inside, but I can't hit my nic vape? I can hit a, I don't know. I don't know what I can do. What can I do? Can I smoke a cigarette outside? Am I not allowed to smoke on the parking lot of a consumption lounge? Like, which... Damn, if you tell a bar, or you told, I just can't imagine trying to tell a different entity that you can't smoke a cigarette outside. That's even like a law for people at work, I think, are able to go outside and smoke cigarettes. Listen, I'm not caping for the cig smokers out there. Y'all should quit. But I'm just saying, you seem to be pointing at people that don't really need to be pointed at. It just makes no sense. Lastly, license holders can have 2 locations for their consumption lounges. So as far as consumption lounges go, it just seems to be looser than I'd like it to be, and seems to be strict on places that it does not need to be. I just don't understand. All right, we're going to move and talk about the portion here on page 6, where it shifts into talking about cannabis events specifically. Lounge is covered. Now let's talk about events. So a cannabis event is anywhere that an event occurs where people consume cannabis. Man, that's like every concert ever. So cannabis event is an event where people consume cannabis. Yep, that's true. But what do you mean? Like, is there a quantity? If I invite 7 people over, is that a cannabis event? We all dab because that's what we do. If I invite 2 people over, is that an event? Can I have 100 people in my household and not make it an event? What is an event? An event is where people are smoking weed. Cannabis, fam, after this video, I'm going to have my own personal cannabis event, and I'm very excited for it. Cannabis events have to be registered through the registration. Online, you have to pay, I'm sure, a fee to them, and then there has to be a vendor permit for vending at a cannabis event too, so you've got to go through the government as well to make sure that they know that you're going to be there vending. Now, I wonder if that applies for any vendor. So, like, do accessory companies have to apply for a license, or do just cannabis brands that are going to be at these consumption lounges have to? Okay, tell me. On page 7, we start to dig into things that the event that are registered are allowed to do. So you're allowed to consume edible cannabis. You're allowed to distribute THC beverages, like we talked about, 5 milligrams or less, assumably. You're allowed to allow vendors to sell or give out single-serving products. So at cannabis events, it seems they can give out samples, but at cannabis lounges, they can't. Why? And then you have to tell the commission all the details of the time and location. Like, they have to know everything about where you're heading, about what you're going to be doing, about who's going to be there, about everything. You have to tell it all. Yeah. Not surprised in that one. But then we get into the fun stuff, Cannabis fam. And I know you're thinking, like, cannabis events, man, that's going to be sick. Hanging out, smoking J's, taking fat globberooskies with the homies. Cannabis fam, you're not allowed to smoke or vape at cannabis events. You aren't allowed to consume cannabis at cannabis events, even though a cannabis event is any event they're consuming cannabis. Please make it make sense. I just cannot get behind the folks that are writing these laws and what they think is really this culture is, like what people want to do. What are we going to hang around and eat 10 milligram edibles all day, Can Fam? I mean, there's 50 brands in Maryland, so we sure could. I'm sure we could all come with a whole different brand, each of us. And we never have a different gummy. How sick with, yo, you want to hit this 10 milli? Yeah, dog. This is, oh wow, that tastes so like a regular fucking gummy. It's horrible. It is horrible. You can't consume alcohol at them too. Okay, fine. You just can't consume weed at the weed event. Oh my God. You're ridiculous. You're so ridiculous. On page 9, we talk about vendors must have all their licenses depending on what they're doing. So they got to have, if you're a food purveyor, you got to have a food license. Obviously, you got to have weed licenses, whatever you're doing, you got to be licensed for that. Anything sold will be taxed at the recreational rate. So obviously, if you're at an event and you're buying, I say obviously, but I guess assumably, you're not making a medical purchase is what they're going at. Otherwise, you just go to your dispensary where there could be a doctor on site. So they're treating it like any purchase would just be a rec purchase at these spaces. And then it's $500 per day for a cannabis event is how it reads. I don't know if that's purely the fee. That seems pretty low because then it says vendor fees can be no more than $5,000 for every 2,000 attendees. So $5,000 if you have 2,000 or less attendees. If you have 2,001, it's going to be 10 stacks maximum. Maximum though. They can't do more than that. Why? What is the point of a cap? You can't do flat rate or make it like by quantity of people. Do you know what you're doing? If an unauthorized event occurs, they are guilty of a misdemeanor and a fine no more than $5,000. I really love that 5K mark. That just seems to be their bread and butter. And then last, on page 10 here, this lets us know that these laws would take effect October 1st of 2025 if we say okay. And what I'm here to tell you to do is to please don't say okay. We got to make a fuss about this. Please write your lawmakers, call them, email them, text them, smoke signals, whatever we need to do. We got to start doing something about this because this is absurd. I've already seen a lot of people speaking out about it. We just got to continue to do so because this is horrific. Maryland has such a potential to be one of the dopest states when it comes to cannabis. I think we have some of the best products here. I think we have some of the best processors here. I think we have some of the best culture here. We can do it big on the East Coast here if the lawmakers let us. And listen, Canada fam, don't listen to this part because I don't like to say it out loud, but like lawmakers, you can make tax money if you just fuck off and let people have fun and enjoy themselves. I know that's what you want out of all of it. So let us rock out, man. Let us have a good time. Let people do their thing. Jesus Christ, you're not even letting rec patients buy 2-gram jars of concentrate, but they can buy 2 1-gram jars of concentrate. Make it make sense. Please make it make sense. Canada fam, get active. Do something. Call, email. Let them know. We got to let them know. This is ridiculous. I'm going to be reaching out. Canada fam, I appreciate you watching this video and being here till the very end. Like, comment, subscribe, and share it so people can see and learn a little bit more about what we got going on. Yeah, tell your friends. Tell your mom. Tell Aunt Sue. Tell your dentist once he stops flossing you. Like, just let everybody know, Canada fam. We got to make change happen. Canada fam, I appreciate you being here till the very end. It's been Travs Dabs. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.